Hello, my name is Caitlin Shoemate, and I will be going over hand hygiene and whether or not education on hand hygiene increases adherence to performing it. According to Effectiveness of Hygienic Hand Washing Training on Hand Washing Practices and Knowledge, hand hygiene refers to hand washing using soap and water, antiseptic hand wash, antiseptic hand rub, or surgical hand antiseptics. This topic is important to me because I have personally witnessed a tremendous amount of healthcare workers go in and out of patients' rooms and not perform hand hygiene once. Not only does that affect the healthcare workers' safety and health themselves, but it also affects the patients. By not performing hand hygiene, we are spreading infections from one already compromised person to another. This causes extra costs for the hospital, plus more time in the hospital for the patient, which means missing work, family time, or just being in an environment they are comfortable in like home. My PICO statement is, for healthcare workers in an acute care environment, does proper hand hygiene education compared to no education impact the adherence to hand hygiene in an acute care setting? The first database that I searched was Cochrane. I searched the keywords hand hygiene, which resulted in 587 results. After I narrowed it down by using my limiters and expanders, new Cochrane evidence in the years 2017 and 2018, it brought me down to 2 results. I did not end up using these articles though because they did not pertain to my topic. The next database that I searched was National Guidelines. Again, I searched the keywords hand hygiene, and it gave me 6 results. Of those 6 results, none of the articles pertained to the area of hand hygiene I was wanting to focus on, so I did not end up using this database for any of my articles. The final database that I used and found to be very helpful was CINAHL, which I have used many times before in previous classes, and I have found it to be very helpful. The search terms that I used for this database were hand hygiene, infection, hospital, and patient. With those 4 keywords, the database gave me a total of 601 results, which is a lot of articles to go through if you're wanting to look through all of those. That is why I used my limiters and expanders and clicked Health Sciences, which helped narrow it down for me. I used CINAHL to find out all 5 of my articles, which I believe were all great articles that were pertaining to the research I was trying to find with hand hygiene. There were many similarities between the 5 research articles. One of them was that training healthcare workers in hand hygiene improves the knowledge and attitudes of nurses when it comes to hand hygiene practices. When people are reinforced on how to do it and the reasoning why, it can help them make hand hygiene more of a priority like it needs to be. For all of the studies that observed hand hygiene compliance, they all had a lower than acceptable compliance rate. For the studies that observed more than just the nurses on the floor and observed all healthcare workers, they found that the nurses were better at compliance than the physicians, which I personally have seen in my clinicals that we have actually had to do a hand hygiene worksheet where we have to stand outside a patient's doors and watch for compliance and see who all actually foams in and out whenever they enter and leave a patient's room. And for the most part, we've noticed that a lot of the physicians have not been using hand hygiene. Hand hygiene compliance throughout many hospitals are not at acceptable limits, and it is costing the patients more time in the hospital and more antibiotics that they shouldn't be needing. On Haverstick's research article, they surveyed patients to see whether or not the healthcare workers encouraged hand hygiene with them or not. And sadly, they found that many of the healthcare workers had not been encouraging their patients to use hand hygiene themselves. It is a part of our job as nurses to educate patients, and I feel that by educating them on the importance of hand hygiene, it could help infection rates tremendously. One of the inconsistencies that I found between the 5 articles that I chose was that they did not all use the same data collecting tools. For example, for Haverstick's research article, questionnaires were given to both patients and the staff. For the staff, it asked them questions regarding how they felt they did on educating patients on the importance of hand hygiene. And for the patients, they asked them questions about whether the staff educated them on hand hygiene or not. And for those questionnaires, they said that the staff felt that their education rates were high and that they educated their patients. And the patients' questionnaires, they said that the staff did not educate them on hand hygiene. I found that a few of the other research articles had trained people to observe for hand hygiene amongst healthcare workers to see if they perform their hand hygiene or not. So they trained different people throughout the healthcare field to observe and watch for different people performing hand hygiene. Another inconsistency that I found was the number of people that they used for their research. For example, for LAPA's research, they observed 1,397 observations, while with Durhan's research, only 27 nurses were observed. For LAPA's research article, they observed nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, and techs, but with Durhan's research article, only nurses were observed. For Karaglu's study, they did not use a control group, and the study also did not provide any data on long-term change on the nurses' compliance rate and knowledge about proper hand hygiene. In Nyonzima's study, they were not able to assess compliance of all 5 moments of hand hygiene. It also only looked at hand hygiene before and after patient contact. For Durhan's study, they only used nurses to observe in their study, which limits their study tremendously, considering there are a lot more healthcare professionals going in and out of the patient's room other than the nurses. And for Haverstick's study, they did not have a large sample size. Overall, hand hygiene is a problem seen throughout healthcare. It is a simple task that is skipped by many. It is important for hospitals to reinforce the importance of hand hygiene, not only by telling their employees to do it, but by telling them why and giving them regular training on the new evidence-based practice of why and how to do hand hygiene. Evidence has shown that by reminding healthcare professionals of the importance of hand hygiene, it could help compliance go up. If we could get our compliance rates up, we could help stop the spread of infection. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day. Here are my references.